So hello and welcome. This is Erica Glessing, and I'm so joyful today to have Carol Glover with me. Welcome, Carol.
Hi, thank you so much.
Yeah, we're going to have a conversation today about judgment, releasing judgment, being true to yourself, and how sometimes being true to yourself can actually feel like an uphill climb. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. Carol, where are you? Where am I talking to you from?
I'm close to Toronto, Canada.
So Toronto, burr.
Yes, but there is a glimmer of spring coming in the air. It's coming.
Nice.
Yeah.
You know, I have a friend who lives in Pittsburgh area, and it's so exciting for her when she starts glimmering spring.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's like 72 here, 24/7. No, 72 to 92. That's my variation.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, we're getting to the season where it's so funny to see people go from this hunched in, closed in sort of way of being to this, it's so amazing to watch.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about your chapter in The Power of Releasing Judgment, and then kind of tell me a little bit about your journey.
Sure. Well, the part that I wrote about was judgment in relation to your knowing. So I can't even begin to imagine how much of my own knowing I shut down in favor of my judgment, everybody else's judgment, my assumption of what other people were judging.
Exactly, right.
And that, like, it got to the point where I didn't even know that I was judging myself or others because it was so ingrained. It was just such a part of my life that I didn't even know I was doing it until someone thankfully showed me all the ways and all the places that it was happening and how to recognize it.
Yeah, I think that first place of noticing, because when something's so embedded, we don't always notice.
Yeah. And it wasn't only me doing it, it was everybody else doing it. So it's just it's normal, which is kind of the scariest thing I've ever really said.
I know, right? Well, one of the things I really like about your work in the world is this way that you do bring people into sort of their own authentic selves. And you also help people with that in business. So tell us a little bit about that energy of business and how you're able to help that. Because that's a place where I think Erica, like with all my friends, I'll talk to their animals. I'll get messages from spirit, they'll be like, Erica, I'm having trouble, my dad passed away. Can you and with my friends, I'm like totally like all my friends are cool with me being psychic. And then in my business, it's interesting. I really cut off that for a long time. It was like, that was really challenging for me to let be in my business space. And that's really shifted for me in this last few years. But I find that being myself in the business space hasn't been as easy.
Yeah. Well, there are a ton of reasons for that. Because we're supposed to do business a certain way. It's supposed to look structured.
Yeah.
It's supposed to have a plan. You're supposed to have a plan before you even do anything. And that's where and then when the plan doesn't work out, which by the way, they almost never do, then you get to judge yourself for how horrible you've been.
Oh my
gosh. So I do have the pleasure of working with clients and even my own business on finding that space where it's okay. It's great to have a plan, to know sort of where you're going, and to flow more easily with that.
Okay.
And sometimes I can do that quite logically. Other times I have this capacity for connecting in with the business and seeing what the business desires and what it requires, of the owner and of whatever other resources might be available.
Wow.
So it's really
When
cool.
you say talk to the business, just for those people who are following us that may have no idea what that means, do you want to just, just take us a little deeper into that tool? Because that was pretty interesting.
If I could explain it, I'd have way more clients.
That's what
I do is I'm able to sort of get a sense of the energy of the business and see it as a separate entity from the person who's running it or
nice.
people who's running it. So I've always been able to do that with machines. Like I've been able to tell my dad what a farm implement knows to fix it when he's been playing with it all day trying to fix it.
Oh my gosh, how cool!
And I would come in and say, oh, you need a rivet right there. Right. So anyway, that's kind of my most fun example of that.
Oh my God.
And then I started to recognize businesses that way, sort of as a mechanical feeling structure. Mm-hmm. But then the more I started working with businesses and the energy in businesses, they started to really take on more of a softer, more etheric personality almost.
Wow.
Yeah, I did one energy infusion not long ago, and we actually discovered that the business has its own third eye. So it has its own knowing and its own sight. And it's like, no way. That was really cool.
Really interesting because I have I have the business with Happy Publishing, and then I have like my spirit business. And the spirit business, I don't seem to be able to get off the ground. And I'm like, I look at it, maybe I'm not asking it enough questions.
Maybe. And I've noticed that some businesses too don't want to be called a business. They won't work if you call it a business because that brings with it all kinds of form, structure, significance.
Oh, because when you said that, it went, yeah, it totally agrees with that. And it understands, yeah, it doesn't like that word.
Yeah, I find a lot of people in the arts, also, as soon as they call it a business, it shuts right down.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff.
Because Happy Publishing likes being a business.
Yeah.
It's like very joyful to publish. It's like, yay. And it likes that I'm psychic. It's cool with that. It has no problems with that. It's like happy with everything.
Yeah.
Like, give me authors. All I want. Give me authors. I'm happy. You got authors? Yeah. I'm good. Give me new authors. Give me published people.
Bring them on.
Let me make people bestsellers. That's all I want to do. I want to make people. That's what Happy Publishing told me in 2014. And I did ask it what it wanted for 2015. And it wanted #1 bestsellers. And I went, I can't do that. Oh my God, what's that going to mean? Yeah. And then it went, no, that's what I want. And I said, okay, well then let's do that.
Right.
And I did, and it pretty much changed everything.
How cool is that?
It was the business, though. I was listening to the business, and I just got out of the way and then did whatever it asked. So that's why we're doing a summit now. So the Power of Releasing Judgment, I was listening to the book, and I said, book, what would you like for your lunch? And it said, I want a summit. And I'm like, no!
Dude, that sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, exactly. You get it completely. I was like, holy moly. And the book's like, I really want to educate people to this thing that we do in our society and our culture of judging. And I really want to shift that energy in a bigger way. And the book said, I want to be big in releasing judgment for people. And look what it's done for you. Like your whole space opened up around you of being Carol. It's like,
and
wow.
Unapologetically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about that shift into being Carol.
Well, it was.
You said in the book like it wasn't always like that.
Oh heavens, no. to the point where I got my project management professional designation. It was all very form structure and expectations and following everybody else's recipe, not only for business, but my life, I was supposed to get a mate, get a house, get a blah, 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 right? And so I did those things and got, what's the word, promoted in the company I was working for at the time, got promoted to the point where I hated it. I was just a puppet and a medicated one at that for a short time. Just to get through the day, because I had to shut down so much of myself. Wow. And it was so clamoring to come back out. Wow. and to be seen that I didn't know what to do with it.
Wow.
So I'm saying it like it's not a part of me, which at that point it kind of wasn't. So it just got exhausting. And there comes a point where, what else, like, this isn't working. So what have I got to lose? There's nothing left to lose.
Wow.
So you start rebuilding from there and bring a little bit more of me, a little bit more of what I truly desire into it.
Nice. Yeah.
And I still struggled a lot with judgment because it wasn't always easy being me and being, I don't know if acceptable is the right word, but I think people didn't know what to do with me once I started to come out of that shell that I lost.
Nice. How fun is that?
Well, it wasn't fun at first, but now it's just hilarious because now I get to the point where if they think I'm crazy, look how much more I get to do.
There's a line in this movie that I like called Draft Day. It's a football movie with Kevin Costner. And he's in the middle of this really complicated trade deal on draft day. And he's trading up and trading down, trading over. And then the guy goes, "You want me to give you back all your number one picks?" He goes, "You're insane." And he goes, "Haven't we already established that?" Dave, you got it. You're totally right. I am off the wall. I want my picks back. And it was so funny. And he gets off the phone. I'm like, oh, I love that. Like, I love that line. And then the hangs up and he goes, "I love this job."
Well, that's what I get to do now too. I get to really shake things up a bit for people, even if it's just putting that little whisper of a thought in their world that makes them sort of take a second look.
Yeah.
That's when I get off the phone and I'm like, oh yeah, we're there.
Aww. Tell me a little bit about this kind of following your knowing. It's certainly a topic that I adore. It's one of my favorite topics in the world. And I really do because, it sounds so easy. And then I was talking to one of my friends who's a mom about following your knowing. And it isn't always easy and it isn't always fun. And sometimes, like, I didn't take my daughter on a trip to Canada this year. And it was like a quick 4-day trip. And it was flying out on a Wednesday or Thursday and then having games Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then flying home. And it required all this stuff of me and required all this stuff of my daughter. And I got this major hit that I couldn't do the trip. And it wasn't, and then I got that, hopefully she'll never watch this, my 12-year-old, but I got that really it was a bigger knowing that it was her body that was saying no to the trip. Because then I got really sick and couldn't even do it if I wanted to. And yet it was so uncomfortable following my knowing. Do you know what I'm saying? It was unpopular. Mm-hmm. Because I got told, like, why aren't you doing this and why aren't you doing that? And it was just like, I just got this major universal no for the trip. And then it's like we think we'll follow our knowing, but then sometimes following our knowing is like not as sexy as it sounds. So what do we do when following our knowing is like, like causing a lot of reverberations.
Yeah. Well, there's a point where you get to choose to follow your knowing all in, follow your knowing mostly, right? And sort of finding that sweet spot where everybody feels maybe not happy, but satisfied, right? And then, and then there's the point where you know, and you go against it anyway because of trying to avoid judgment, trying to avoid.
Like it would have been easier for me to take my kid on her hockey trip.
Right. Even though
everything.
You and her would have both possibly been miserable for it.
Right. And maybe, who knows? Maybe she could have got hurt or something. I mean, who knows? Like whatever her knowing was and my knowing was that kept that from happening, there was a reason. Yeah.
So you still, even though you have this knowing and you start to pay attention to it, you still always have the choice how much of it you follow. And that's kind of like, I've worked with a few clients and we will build a system for running their business that's super easy in the background, like ridiculously easy. And I have to convince them that nobody needs to know how easy it is. They can think, their customers can think you have just like blood, sweat, and tears over something. Nobody needs to know it was easy for you.
Wow.
And then they're like, oh, okay. But really? And I'm like, make it look hard. Tell them it was hard. If that's what's going to satisfy them, but it doesn't have to be for you. Go ahead, build it your own way, do things your own way, and it can still look exactly like anyone else expects on the outside.
How funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. And what makes you happy?
Stuff like that. Having conversations like this. My writing thrills me to no end. And just creating all kinds of stuff like that. Whether or not I'm at the point where just so long as it's not driving my brain crazy anymore and it's just out, whether it's in a blog or another book or whatever else I happen to be working on, even somebody's website, even if it's just putting words down on that, words make me incredibly happy.
Wow. So that's like a major throat chakra. That's the color you're wearing too. That's the blue chakra, which is the throat chakra, and that's the expression chakra. And so it makes perfect sense that having freed up that throat chakra by expressing yourself, your life is now getting more and more and more and more fulfilled. So that's like that's like a perfect fit.
Yeah. And there are several places where I don't do that quite as confidently as this appears.
It's easy, right?
But I'm getting there. And I'm finding that the more I do that, the more it's actually appreciated.
Yeah.
Like it's actually speaking up and speaking the way I really think and feel and be. That's more appreciated than the me that I was presenting when I was holding back.
Aww.
So that's sort of an adjustment for me into that, knowing that I'm actually a greater contribution by really being me and being like full out me.
Awesome. Well, everyone, I want to encourage you to go and get the book, The Power of Releasing Judgment. It's an amazing, amazing book filled with beautiful stories such as Carol's. And Carol, if I want to get a hold of you or work with you, tell us I think you have 2 different websites. Tell us what they are and how we can reach you.
Yeah, the easy one to reach is carolglover.ca. That's where I've got my blog and the radio show and my books. And the working website, which has the business energy stuff, that's firehorseinc.ca.
Yeah, so go to both. Go hang out at carolglover.ca and then go to firehorseinc.ca because why not?
That's right.
Yeah.
They lead to each other anyway. So,
Yeah.
and you can always find me on Facebook. Just search Carol Glover. I'm the cute one. And
As opposed to Danny. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just messing.
I'm sure somebody thinks he's cute.
Yeah, he's
You can find me that way, and then that leads to everything else as well.
All righty. Thank you so much for today. Mwah.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me in the book.